Hey guys, I have a confession. This last year I felt like a pretty big loser. I don't have a job, I'm broke, and I'm maidenless. But at least this video is sponsored by Skillshare, so I used their website to try and find a class on how to find a girlfriend. I didn't get any results. So I moved on how to fix my being broke situation, and I found a class on day trading by Zach Hartley. After scrupulously analyzing his contents and his class, I went on the stock exchange and actually made 69 cents. You guys can also use Skillshare using the link in the description or the pinned comment below for 30-day free trial and learn how to paint, code, graphic design, and so much more from all of their different classes. And you could be just as cool as me. The first 1,000 people to use the link will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare. So download it for yourself, learn something new this year, and share it with all your maidenless friends. So you want to play Paragon again, but you don't know which successor is going to be better, or really what the difference between them is. This video should serve to educate you guys on the basic differences between the two games, as well as provide my subjective opinion at the end as to which I prefer. Let's get into it. Hello all you beautiful people out there, what is going on? This is your friend BritikHD coming to another video, and let's begin with a list comparing Predecessor to Overprime. We're going to tackle 5 main topics, which include the map, the heroes, the items, the modes and progression, and of course, the gameplay. Let's start off with an introduction, however. What is Predecessor? What is Paragon the Overprime? How did they come to be? And why should we care? So Predecessor, made by Omada Studios, is taking the Paragon assets that were released by Epic Games and trying to mold a new game in their image with their ideas of balance and such in mind. A lot of the creators of this game in Omada Studios are previous Paragon players, and in fact, some of you might remember a popular YouTuber by the name of RGS Ace. He is actually the CEO of Omada Studios, and he is leading the charge amongst other names you might remember from the Paragon community, such as Steve Superville and even Nabori as community manager. These guys all together miss Paragon as much as I did, except instead of making videos on a dead game for multiple years, they decided to actually do something about it, and they got together with a band of coders, one of the lead ones being Sergeant Smokey, beloved in the community, and now Predecessors in early access on Steam, after they successfully secured $20+ million in funding from investors from likes of Riot Games and Microsoft and other big areas and companies. That's just a quick synopsis of the team behind Predecessor. Team behind Overprime is Team Soul Eve, which really just started with one guy, Rocket Mania, who was working on a project called Overprime using those same released assets that Epic Games released after Paragon shut down, and really he was just building his portfolio. But then a couple people tagged along and they started making a bigger game, and so it went from the initial project called Overthrow is what Rocket Mania was working on. Then they made Overprime, and then eventually it got big enough to where Overprime was purchased by Netmarble, which is a really big publisher, game publisher in Korea. They make a lot of mobile games. You might have heard of them. You might have even played one of their games on your mobile device. And so they have Paragon the Overprime. They acquired the naming rights from Epic Games. We don't know for how much or how, but they're able to use the name and the logo in their game. That's why Predecessor doesn't have any Paragon names in its title. So that's just a quick intro. Let's talk about the good stuff now. The map. That's the first thing I want to talk about here. Predecessor versus Overprime. If you were a Monolith enjoyer, then Predecessor's map will look very familiar to you. It is different, however. The jungle's different, the camps are situated in different locations, and the buffs do little different things. Instead of just having Orb Prime, you also have what they call Mini Prime, which spawns before the 20-minute mark. I believe it spawns around the 8-minute mark, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the 10-minute mark. I don't know the exact numbers for some of these things, guys, and everything is subject to change, as both of these games are in early access at the time of this video. So keep that in mind. If you come back to this video 3 months after its release date, these games might look very different. However, you do have this mini Orb Prime objective, which will give the Orb Prime buff, but just to one person, essentially. The bonus damage and the bonus minions buffs. But you also have a green buff in the soul lane that gives XP. You have a gold buff in the dual lane that, you guessed it, gives gold. And you have the river buffs as you remember them. So this should really remind you of where Paragon left off, really, when it comes to the map. As with the map in Overprime, you'll notice that it's actually pretty similar to the very first map in Paragon that was called Legacy, for those of you that remember it. This map has significant modifications to it. However, the jungle is much different. There are bushes that you can hide in and be invisible in, as well as the shadow pools that you might remember from the original Paragon. There's also these interesting teleporters that are located. There are 4 teleporters, and there's 2. One located in the soul lane and the dual lane, and then there's 2 between the pits. So between the, I think they call it the Prime Guardian, and then the Prime Spirit. So what you remember as Fangtooth, or the giant dinosaur, or the raptor, or whatever you want to call it from Paragon, that's what they call the Spirit in this game, and it looks like a gazelle, a deer. I don't really know what to call it. And then there's the Prime Guardian. That is not gonna lie, looks pretty badass. He looks pretty badass, and you can teleport between those. And the teleporters are on a very long cooldown. Only one person can go through the teleporters at a time. As you're noticing, it's a longer map compared to predecessors, and that is that's alleviated by the fact that you can use sprint in the game, and you have fast travel. You can run and shoot and go pew pew just like you could in the original Legacy version of Paragon. So some people are going to be split just by that alone. Some people preferred Legacy, some people preferred Monolith, and these two games kind of take the opposite sides of the coin when it comes to the map. Now, for the second topic I want to discuss are the heroes, okay? So, with Predecessor, in order to play it right now in early access on Steam or Epic Game Store, you have to purchase a bundle, okay? The bundles start at $20. They were on 50% off sale in these first 2 weeks, but you're probably going to miss it by the time you watch this video, unless you watch it right as I upload it. All the bundles will start you off with 20 heroes, and then plus the next 5 that are going to come out. And Omega Studios already confirmed that they're going to be releasing a hero once per month. And so they're going to give you the first 5 on top of the 20 that you can play right now. I know Countess is about to be released right around the corner, so we can just say 21, I guess, for those of you who are really keeping tabs on that. But she was one of those first heroes that are released in the first 5 for free after these first 20 initial ones. And you can look up all this information in their various Discords as well. I will link both the Predecessor and the Overprime Discords in the description below, guys. But yeah, you have 20 heroes, 5 coming up next. And one of those 5 is actually going to be a completely original hero called Codename Huntress for now. We don't know her real name yet. Omega Studios has not revealed that yet. But that is a absolutely built from the ground up custom hero that Omega Studios created that you guys will be able to play. So it's not just Paragon heroes that they're bringing back slowly but surely. They're trying to bring back as many as they can. They're also incorporating new heroes. And same thing with Team Soliv and Netmarble with Overprime. So you start off with 27 when you first load in the game. I must mention that Overprime is absolutely free. So if the $20 is bothering you, then that might be a deal breaker for you as well. However, all 27 of those heroes will not be unlocked from the get-go. They will give you a free rotation, and you can unlock heroes by, login bonuses and earning enough in-game currency to unlock them. But it might take you a second since in-game currency is locked behind dailies and weekly challenges. So it's not like you could just play games and then earn in-game currency just by playing the game. You do have to complete these very specific daily and weekly challenges in order to progress. So you are kind of locked behind a time wall there for a bit, or you could just buy the heroes outright, and most of them are $10 a pop. So take that with a grain of salt when you are playing these games. However, I must say that Team Overprime did a great job with their first absolutely original hero, Xena, which you guys are actually seeing gameplay of right now. She's very fun to play. I really enjoyed her animations, and I think the game's really gorgeous, just the way the hero animations are as well. So you really can't go wrong. You have plenty of heroes to choose from in both games. Now, they do have different kits. I should mention that as well. The heroes in Predecessor, they have passive abilities, whereas the ones in Overprime don't. So, again, take that with a grain of salt. Different heroes have different abilities. And some heroes have lock-on abilities in one game and they don't in another game. Some abilities are, some sort of variation in one game and a different variation of another game. For example, Kalari in Predecessor has a completely different kit from the Kalari in Overprime. So again, you might want to just try both out, see which one you like more, or at least do your research, watch videos like this one, or watch live streams like the ones that are going on my Twitch channel pretty much every evening at this point. 3, I wanted to cover the items briefly. There's not much to talk about. Both games have the same traditional MOBA item system that you'll see in pretty much any other MOBA, like League of Legends and Smite and anyone else. They all have this traditional item system where in one shape or form, you build these components into a final item, and then you do that for all the slots in your items. So it's pretty straightforward. Everyone has access to every single item in the game since day one. You don't have to collect cards. You don't have to build decks. You don't have to open up loot crates to be on the same level as anybody else. Everybody starts off with the same exact item shop, and you guys can counter build during the match just the same with the entire items. What I will point out, though, is that the starting item system is different between Predecessor and Overprime. In Predecessor, you have these items called crests, which will evolve into one of 3 variants when you complete the certain challenge, which is, I don't know, deal enough damage to enemies or minions in lane, restore enough health after taking damage from minions. They're very simple challenges. You'll just unlock them as you play throughout the match. You don't really have to do anything special for them. And then you get to choose a special active item when you evolve it. Whereas with Overprime, you kind of have these gems that you could just choose. Really, they don't necessarily push you in one way or another like Predecessor does with the recommended items. You can just choose a gem, and then that you can just buy the evolutions to that gem. You could just, as if you're purchasing another item in game, like you're building another item in game, you can build those gems up, and they'll give you more stats. And also, most of those gems, they have a blink ability built into them, so you can teleport and blink forward, whereas in Predecessor, the blink ability is just automatically given to every single person in the match, and you just press 4 by default, that is, and then you can just blink forward, and that's on cooldown for 5 minutes, just like it is in Overprime. So that's really the main difference. The last difference I'll say about the items is that in Predecessor, all the other items besides your crest and your trinkets and your consumables are passive items at this moment in time. That is subject to change. However, in Overprime, there are a lot more active items that you can build and actually press and use your keys 1 through 6 to activate those active items. It's not just passive on abilities that are on those final items. So, again, that's a little bit of a gameplay difference for you guys. Number 4, the modes and progressions. So, as it stands right now, and I am making this video, like I said, very close to a rather big update from Predecessor, where they are introducing Countess, and they're actually introducing Custom Match. Apart from that, everything else should stay relatively the same for at least the next few weeks, hopefully. Hopefully this video doesn't get outdated soon. But as for the modes, obviously you have your 5 vs 5 modes in both Predecessor and Overprime on their maps that I went over earlier. And like I said, Predecessor is adding a custom games mode, 5 vs 5 here in this patch that should drop any day now, which you guys are probably already enjoying. And there's also a solo practice mode in Predecessor where you could just hop in, you can buy whatever item you want, and there's minions, and there's like an enemy steal or hero that you can hit and deal damage to, and just practice and just see how the game feels, try out different abilities, do different things, and just see what you like and what you don't like. Whereas in Overprime, at this moment in time, there are custom games, and you can actually set up AI in the custom games. However, I've heard that it is a little wonky at this moment in time, so it's not a completely robust solo versus AI game mode that you would anticipate from a full-fledged game yet. Again, these games are both in early access, so they're subject to change. They're not all the way complete yet. Keep that in mind, guys. I cannot stress that enough, that there's a lot that can still change for sure after I upload this video. But there is no solo versus AI mode in Overprime either at this moment in time. Not a dedicated matchmaking one. So it's going to be kind of hard for new players to get in and really learn against bots. You really just have those training modes and custom matches to learn. So I'd recommend really tuning into my streams on Twitch and just seeing what I build and asking me all the questions you want. I answer all your questions, and I can give you pointers on where to go with your builds and your gameplay. And speaking of gameplay, you have to play the game in order to progress. You thought I was moving on to the fifth one. You have to progress through your account ranks. Now, what does that look like in Predecessor and Overprime? Well, it's definitely more robust in Overprime as it currently stands. That's because Overprime also has a ranked mode, whereas Predecessor currently does not have a ranked mode. They're planning to add that within the next 6 months. But Overprime already has a ranked mode with a ban and pick draft system and actual ranks that are in the game. So in that sense, it is more complete, and because of that, you have more progression, right? You can increase your account level, you can unlock the heroes with the in-game currency that you earn, you can even unlock some skins with the in-game currency if you don't want to pay for them, although I must say some of these skins are really, really cool. They're also pretty expensive for the really cool ones. Some of them might even run you up to $30 a pop if you get the coolest looking skins. So they are a little pricey, but you can grind for some in-game skins as well as obviously there's a ranked mode, which is probably the biggest thing in progression, and you can go up the ranks in that. Whereas in Predecessor, there is no ranked mode and there is no current like mastery system, progression system, but they are doing a quote-unquote season. What that means is it's kind of like a battle pass that you might have seen in a lot of other different games these days. However, you don't have to purchase it. It's already included with that initial purchase that you make, plus all the other things that are available in those different bundles that you guys can check out on their Steam page or on their Discord. But their first season actually ends March 31st. So between now and March 31st, if you play the game and you get to a certain account level, after the first season ends March 31st, you will get a whole bunch of rewards, including emblems and skins, but also, which I think is really cool, if you get high enough, you actually get their currency. I don't know exactly what it's called yet, but it just looks like gold right now is what they have. The marker just looks like a gold coin. I'm just going to call them coins. You can get these coins, which are actually the currency that you would normally have to buy with real-life money. They're not the in-game currency. They're the currency, they're the premium currency that you would have to buy, and you can actually earn up to 7,500 of these coins if you get your account level all the way up to level 300 before March 31st. That's $75 worth of coins that you can spend on skins and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I think is really fucking awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not being paid by Predecessor, and I'm not being paid by Overprime to lean one way or the other in this video. That's why I'm able to show gameplay from both, right? But I just think it's really cool that you can just play the game and literally make money doing it, and then spend that money obviously on skins in the game that you enjoy. So different progression systems. You guys decide how you want to spend your time. You can play both games, or you just can focus on one, but those are the differences in modes and progression systems at this moment in time. And now finally, the gameplay, the moment we've all been waiting for. How do the games feel? Does it feel like Paragon? Is it something different? What are we talking about here? Okay, great. Let's start with Predecessor. Predecessor, the gameplay feels very close to Paragon. It feels very similar. It feels like a MOBA. The laning phase is there. The farming phase is there. Ganks take a certain amount of time as you normally would expect it to. And the pace of the game overall is very similar to how you probably remember it on the Monolith version of Paragon. I can't really summate it any other way. It really is that simple, that the game plays and feels very close to the way Paragon felt back in, let's say, April of 2018 before it was shut down, right? It feels like you're just picking up from where you left off, which a lot of people really enjoy. I really enjoy that because I miss Paragon, and that's what I wanted. Some people probably want something a little faster paced, right? A little less MOBA-y, a little more action-y, a little more brawler-y, and that is what you get with Overprime. This game is way faster paced. I think Mongoose, who is another awesome YouTube content creator, phrased it very elegantly and said something along the lines of, I don't know, Overprime is like Paragon, but if you snort a whole bunch of cocaine and take speed at the same time. That is a really funny way of saying it. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but it is really, really, really fast-paced. You are always running. You are always in travel mode. Farming is nice, but after the first 5 minutes, it usually just degenerates down into constant team fights. It feels like you are incentivized more to just fight and team fight and gank than you are to farm, which some people might really enjoy, and some people might really like that kind of style. That's why these two games really separate each other apart, is because their gameplay loops are so different. And you can tell this when you just play the game, and when you just see, and when you just feel the differences. You can really tell just by the kit choices that they went with in Overprime. A lot of the abilities are easier to land than they used to be. There's a lot more lock-on abilities. For example, Gadget's Mine is just so fast in this game. You don't even have to lead it. You just plop it down, and it will lock on to the enemy that's right there that you plop it down on. It's just really fast. The Phase E ability, her Harvest Nettles, for those of you who remember that ability, is lock-on in Overprime, whereas in Predecessor, it's an actual skill shot still, and stuff like that. So you'll notice that Overprime is definitely more fast-paced, and it is more forgiving in that regard, which makes it easier to pick up if you're new, and I guess it makes it more fun too, because you're always seeing action. That's what a lot of people like about it. That's why a lot of people have fun on it, is because you're always fighting. Those are the two biggest differences in gameplay. When it comes to smoothness, which is really important to me, and this is where I'm going to lead into my opinion, is the smoothness, in my opinion, it feels more smooth on Predecessor. It just really feels like you have that old Paragon polish when it comes to the smoothness. Now, there are certain features that are currently missing, like ability queuing. Let's say you're playing Crunch and you want to use his combos. You can't really press Q and then E right after, and then it's going to Q and E automatically. You have to actually press Q when you want to Q, and you have to press E where you want to E, if that makes sense. That's what ability queuing is. You press the key, and then it pops into the queue, and then it executes that process in that order. Whereas I think Predecessor's still working on that, so it could definitely be smoother, but it is really good for an early access. Very smooth. Whereas when it came to Overprime, I did feel like I was stuttering a bit more. There were like these really weird mini teleports that were going on, especially when I was playing with Xena using her dash. I was kind of rubber banding backwards after the fact sometimes. And just like these little things that kind of throw it off and remind you that, yeah, you know, this game still needs a little bit of work as well. So in that regard, currently, in my opinion, at this point in time, Predecessor feels smoother to me. And that is also the biggest reason as to why I prefer Predecessor over Overprime. Overprime has more content, has prettier skins, and it has prettier graphics, in my honest-to-goodness opinion. I think the map is really pretty in Overprime. But to me, what has always mattered the most is the gameplay. And in Predecessor, that is the gameplay I want. I want that old Paragon gameplay with a few Predecessor twists to it. And as they evolve and mature, they're going to add more, and they're going to balance out more, I'm sure. And as for the content within the game, Overprime started off with more content. Absolutely, no question. But when it comes to the core gameplay, the gameplay that keeps me coming back for more and more, the winner in my mind is Predecessor. It's that MOBA-y feel that really keeps me coming back to Predecessor, where I know I lock in, I need to farm, I need to rotate with my teams. I can't just teleport from solo lane to duo lane and kill somebody. I really need the entire team to be taking Overprime, whereas in Overprime you could solo it if you get a carry with enough lifesteal, etc, etc, etc. It plays more like a MOBA that I actually want to play, and less like a hero arena brawler. That is my closing statement on the Predecessor versus Overprime. I gave you the objective differences. I'm going to let you guys make your own decisions. Again, I'm putting links to both the Predecessor and the Discord and the Overprime Discord in the description. And I'm also putting the links to their Steam pages, so you guys can check them out on Steam. If you guys enjoyed this video, it took me a while to make, and as you can tell, my brain's been jumbled trying to make it this for a long time. So I would appreciate a like. That would be really cool and super sexy, and I would love you forever. And maybe even subscribe. And again, check out my Twitch channel. That's where you'll find me more often these days. If you want actual gameplay of these games, check me out on Twitch. Hit the follow button there, and you'll always know when I go live. And quick side note, I'm unbanned from Twitter. So you guys can follow me on Twitter again, at BritikHD. Isn't that awesome? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, make sure I'll have a wonderful day. Peace.